Hello, my name is Ytasha Womack. I am here with Erica Olivares Bowen, an esteemed dancer who teaches salsa, hip hop, rumba, a range of styles, someone who I think is super fantastic. And I want to thank her for being here. Hello there, Erica.
Hi, hi, Tasha. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Yes, this is a dialogue that we're having as part of Carnegie Hall's Nuestros Sonidos. It's a celebration of Latin culture and in the United States, and this is all in tandem with the release of my book, The Afrofuturist Evolution. Woohoo! Uh, and the exciting thing about this book is that there's an entire section on rhythm. Anyone who knows me knows that I love dance. And in putting together this rhythm section, I spoke to a number of dancers to think about energy patterns and experience and why dance is so valuable in unlocking aspects of who we are. And Erica was one of the fantastic people I had the pleasure of interviewing. So thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
So first, I'm going to start off with a brief reading. And then Erica and I will be in discussion. And I'm reading from the section called Energy. It's chapter 12, and it's called The History and Future of Dance. Simply stated, rhythm is a series of repetitive patterns. Variations in rhythm reflect differing approaches to space time philosophy as an embodied experience. Dance is embodied rhythm. An embodied experience is both grounding in that we are connecting to our earth and astral in our connection to the broader universe. As a reminder, being in the body is not just about the body itself, but rather the wisdom that comes from our physical form, that which makes us of earth, but is not relegated solely to the earth plane, or, for that matter, matter itself. Being in the body gets us out of our heads and is a recognition that our mental machinations are one source of many and understanding ourselves and the world around us. Dance is a space time technology, one that connects humans to the patterns or rhythms that unify our universe, our societies, our collective states of elation. Every culture has its own core rhythms, ones reflected in its music, dance, and language that speak to how people gather and operate in harmony with the universe and one another. Cultures have preserved rhythms that have uniquely sustained life or were sources of vitality for the culture. All right. Well, thank you, Erica, for being here. I'm so excited to be sharing with you and being in discussion with you. I had the pleasure of taking salsa and rumba dance lessons with Erica in a cultural immersion, learning Afro Cuban approaches and experiences in rumba, in salsa, and I am forever grateful it changed my life. But today in our talk, we really want to talk about just the value of dance and dancing. And I was hoping that you could just speak to what you do, Erica, and just tell us a little bit about why dance is important.
So for me, what I do right now is, well, I'm a co-owner of a studio. I'm also a stage director, choreographer, and performer, specifically performing with dance, circus arts. And going back to dance, my background as in reference to dance is contemporary, modern, ballet, and then Afro-Latin styles from Afro-Cuban, folkloric to the popular dances, popular Latin dances like salsa, mambo, cha-cha-cha, excuse me, and then also Afro-Brazilian, and like popular Brazilian dances like samba, gafieira, some element of gafieira, but more samba. But it all started with Cuba because of family background, and as a as a child, but specifically as a teenager, I had a family member who suggested, you know what, if you're going to be an artist, you need to go back to Cuba and study there. And I would grow up with these stories about Alicia Alonso and how she was such an amazing ballerina that came back to Cuba. And in my teenage years, I actually went back to Cuba and studied dance there. And it was similar to your experience, Ytasha. It was life changing, because I, for the most part, was doing, in reference to studying dance, really focused on the classical, or, the approach was take classical ballet, which is, of course, extremely important, jazz dance, which I love because not just of the movement of jazz, but the rhythm of jazz and its connection. At the time, I really didn't know, but its connection with Black dance as a whole, Black music in a sense, not just here in the United States, but internationally. And then also, like, again, the focus is on, the more common, which is modern dance or contemporary. And so when I went to Cuba, studying there as a teenager, which was so amazing, is that we focused on that. But because of the idea under the Cuban Revolution, which is, yes, study the classics, but also understand your own culture, understand the importance of your own culture. And that was pretty revolutionary because at the time, elements of like hip hop, for instance, were still something that was on like the outer layers of art in a sense. And you didn't really see, for instance, at the time, it's definitely shifted now, but at the time, you didn't really see dance studios embracing, for instance, take a hip hop class, or um, programs within academia where there was a dance major to, focus on hip hop as a major, which is what they offer now in some universities, or even having a class, or even having, for instance, a lecture based class on the history of hip hop. So, this idea of understanding the importance of culture when you are an artist, and how that informs you as an artist, was to me pretty revolutionary in reference to Cuba. And I'm sure it had to do with the with like the new government in a sense. But it was revolutionary because you would go to class and you'd be taking a modern dance class, but then they would have drummers, and the music that the drummers were playing, it wasn't just any music. It was music that was considered Afro-Cuban. It was music that was coming from the Yoruba tradition, and it was being played in a modern dance sense. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, you're doing, modern dance, and specifically Cuban modern dance, which is their own technique that was created in Cuba, but it was to Afro-Cuban music. And then also there is, this idea of the body. I saw different shapes while I was taking class. And these are amazing professional dancers that, are a part of like for instance, the National Modern Dance Company in Cuba. Amazing, just absolutely amazing. But I saw, shape. It wasn't that you had to be like extremely, 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 extremely thin. Yes, they were athletic. So there were all sorts of things as like a teenager that I was like, what is this? And what is this? And it's okay to have like the body that I have is as athletic. And it was like, yes, it's fine. And all of these things were like kind of blowing my mind. And at the same time, I realized to this day, it charged me as an artist, right?
Mhm.
Charged me to understand that art is something that is big, and it encompasses, it has the ability to encompass so much if we allow it. And another thing that happened, this is a long answer and I'll stop soon. But another thing that happened is that it introduced me to the importance of folkloric based arts and how they, in a sense, contribute to what we consider as popular art forms. And a lot of times we don't know it. There are
Right,
many rhythms that are in, Afro Latin, music or rhythms that are used in salsa today. And people may not know it, but they still exist. And as an artist, to understand um, that it's important to know it, it's important to embrace it, it's important to nurture it if at all possible. So that's the start of the first question. And I'll try to keep my answer shorter.
no, I mean, all of this is really great because I think people forget that dance is, dance is just one of these experiences that the rhythms are very old and you just don't always have a context for how old they are.
Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
definitely, definitely.
Right. And so,
Um,
yeah. And so great. So it's funny. You're talking a lot about the body and realizing that you can have all kinds of body dynamics and be a great dancer. I actually came out of schools here in Chicago, Mayfair Academy, and then later coming out with Young High School. And a lot of the girls in the dance program were girls of color, black and brown. And so the body, I didn't even know body was an issue until I became an
mm,
adult and I would talk to other people and they were saying, "Oh, I had so many body issues coming up because of dance." And I was like what? What? It wasn't a reference point. So,
yeah.
yeah, so it's just interesting to see. But so for you, you're a professional dancer and you've prioritized dance in your life. How and you're also teaching dance to a lot of people who weren't
Mhm.
necessarily professional dancers or aspiring to be so. Why do you think it's important that people value dance and make time to dance?
I would say, I'll start off with something that's personal and then connected to the general. I had one of my parents, my mom, she died when I was young, and I remember not wanting to talk about it at all, not wanting to talk at all. And for me, at that time, I started to take dance classes. And I was like a preteen. And I remember not wanting to talk to people about what I was feeling, because when you have a parent that dies, especially when you're young, everyone's like, "How are you feeling? How are you feeling? How are you feeling?" And sometimes it's like you don't want to talk, or you just don't have the words to process how you are feeling. And I remember like taking dance classes, and for the first time as I was moving, I felt I can express what I'm feeling and I don't have to say any words,
Mm,
verbal words. So that's a personal thing. And I've worked, for instance, with kids a lot. Some of the kids, have challenges, different challenges. And there's something powerful about dance and movement as a whole, and even music and rhythm, where you can express without the in a sense the verbal word. I find that when we dance, there's also this element, because I'm also, certified yoga teacher. There's this element of moving. I know it sounds esoteric. This element of moving the body in a deeper way that's not so esoteric is moving bone, moving muscle. And we all know that if you're moving your bones and your muscles, that's much better than I'm just going to sit down and all day and not do anything. It's better for your health to do that. And when you do that, if you take a class, it could be dance, it could be fitness, whatever it may be, um, how the body reacts to it chemically. You feel better, right? There are hormones that are released into the body that make you feel better. And so with dance, what I find is that you get all of that. And it's a little bit different than like a fitness class, because in dance you are getting this aspect of movement, moving the physical body, the muscles, the bones, tendons, well, not necessarily tendons, but muscle, bones, so on and so forth. But then there's this element of creation as well that's different than a fitness class,
Mhm.
where you're being asked to create, and that shifts the body and it shifts the mind in a different way, where you come in contact with this idea and this ability and this power of you being a creator. And that creation can be in the physical, like for instance, creating a human being. It could be not necessarily creating a human being, it could be creating something for yourself, a goal that you may have, something that you want to accomplish. So, in my opinion, on a broader level, besides the physical benefits of taking a dance class, is this ability of you coming in contact with the power of creation, and how you can, in a sense, once you come in contact with this power of creation, it's bigger than just the dance. It's bigger than just the movement. You realize, well, if I have this power to create this, let me apply it to another element of my life, something else that I want to accomplish. And that's why I'm not, for instance, a teacher or a performer or a director that says, I can only teach professionals. I believe that any person who wants to come in contact with this creation and this power, because I've seen it before where someone's like in no way a professional, but all of a sudden they're in a class and they're hearing the music and they're moving and they're like feeling better. They're smiling. And then once they finish class, like their shoulders are held up a little bit higher, like, yeah, I did that. And how that applies to another element of their lives. So, that's the value of dance, in my opinion.
Well said. I think, there's people who can look at dance and, uh, sometimes in our society, we get locked into physical activity as having to be so functional. And dance is one of these sorts of activities, as you mentioned. It's about creativity. It's also about connection. I think it's a reminder that we're on Earth. It could be a deeper connection to yourself, a deeper connection to the universe, a connection to people around you. You're dancing
Mhm.
with them and you're feeling all in sync. Um, and, for me, as a person who grew up with dance, there's a period where I was, focusing on my career, you're going out dancing at parties, etc. And then I felt like I was proselytizing, trying to like convince people of
Mm.
the value of dance because I grew up with a
Mhm.
lot of people who love dance. And then as
Mhm.
you mature, depending on who you're around, you have to be very focused on making time for dance.
Mhm.
Make it seem like, okay, it has to be at the activity, or I have to take a specific class, or I have
Yeah.
to, you know, and it's like, wait a second, I can dance in my house when I wake up in the morning, and in addition to the classes or the outings or anything else I want to do, I don't have to wait for that one time in the week or that one big event.
Mhm.
I can dance in my home, I could dance in the park, I can dance in the yard, I can, and And all of that becomes this interesting, like, it's almost as if you're challenging space.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
because we're so socialized sometimes around where you can dance, when it's appropriate to dance.
Hmm.
Um, and some spaces a little more so than others. And you can look up thinking of yourself as being this very dancing person, and you haven't danced in months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, there's a period when I realized I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And that's around the time that I think I connected with you and had the experience and, this whole connection to dance. And it was a reminder, much like you said, dance is a language, dance is essential. And there's so much insight that you gain about yourself through the
Hmm.
value of that
Hmm.
experience. So Erica and I are going to have a much longer conversation about this subject, um, but we want to use this as our your dance reminder
Dance,
to
dance.
right. You can always pull from the playlist that's on my website. It's got all these Afrofuturist tunes, or you can pick whatever you like. And you can also take classes with Erica in New York City. Um, she's always available. How can people reach out to you, Erica?
So you can go to our Instagram at Samba Salsa Entertainment. Or you can also teach at World Arts East. You can go to Instagram at World Arts East. So either one is fine. Uh, or like, do I give email? No, that should be fine. Instagram is
Hmm.
fine, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
That should be good.
And anything that you would like to share in closing?
Uh, yeah, I mean, in reference to dance, I would say everyone. And this is based on specifically, I would say adults and children up to a certain age. But first, speaking like, to connecting with adults in a sense. I know that, like, you know, I guess because I've danced so much, and I didn't start off at like 3 years old taking a dance class. That is in no way what my life was. A lot of times, like my first introduction to dance was like my father putting on like a record, and we're around the house and like playing with my dad and doing little moves or whatever, and it was just fun. It was a way to connect with family. um and so that was really my first introduction to dance, and I didn't start taking actual dance classes until I was a preteen. So, but still, it's like when I work with adults or they take classes, sometimes there's such this idea that I'm not perfect. I just got into my first class and I'm not perfect. And I just want to say, I know it's hard because I know as adults we put so much on ourselves that we need to be perfect right now, especially if you're like amazing at your job and you're like, well, if I'm amazing at, I have an amazing career and I'm really good at this, I should be good at everything in my life. But a lot of times that's not how it works. And with dance, when you come into if you ever go into a class, or taking a private class or experience, it's like I just want to suggest to everyone, yes, take the class and, hopefully you'll have a great time, but give yourself the time and the energy in that to just feel like, and when I say feel, it's like, listen to the music. How's the music make you feel? And like vibe on that. Like, yeah, this is some great music. If you like, you're learning a step, instead of like trying to be like perfect and you're like, it's like, okay, what is, oh, this, step, and you're listening to the music, and what is it trying to get you to? And I know that's like a lot, because you're like, for instance, I was teaching a salsa class the other day, And I asked this guy, I was like, oh, it's like, have you done salsa before? And he's like, no, but like my family, like they're Mexican. And I was like, so what made you want to do salsa now? And he's like, well, there's, event at the pier. It's like salsa at the pier. And I want to be able to like look good, which is, reality. And at first it was like he was trying so hard to be perfect, you know, but by the end, we got to a point where it was like he could just relax and dance,
Mhm.
and just hear the music, dance. And it's like, yeah. And I say this because what I think we have to remember before class, before seeing dance on a huge stage in a theater, before all of that, dance was an opportunity for us, as you were saying, Ytasha, for us all to communicate, for us all to be, in a group or in a tribe. And it was something that we were using to communicate. It was something that we were using to celebrate. It's like, oh, we have a harvest today. The universe has brought us like, this amazing harvest. We'll all be able to eat for the winter. Let's celebrate. How did we do that? We danced, we played music, you know oh, you're not anymore, you're of a certain age and it's time for you to get married. um we're gonna have like, another group, or come and we're gonna I'll show, my, group that's ready to get married, and then you show yours. And how did we create this exchange? There was dance and there was music involved. So I think of like for the most part, every major event and celebration that we've had throughout the ages, it always included dance, music, song. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. So hopefully everyone, you know, I want to say go celebrate, go dance.
Yes, well,
So,
I'm there with you. I think I'm going to be dancing later today. I don't think I've danced
yay.
all week.
Perfect. Yes.
Right. So, well, this has been a pleasure as always, Erica. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.
Thank
Um,
you.
thank you. Thank Carnegie Hall. Um, Nuestros Sonidos. Thank you, everyone who's connecting today. Make sure to dance. Make sure to check out the Afrofuturist Evolution. Be sure to check out Erica's dance classes as well in New York City. And we will be chatting soon. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Woohoo.
Yay. Take care.